Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor.
Dude,
I like it. I like it a lot. He plays prick really well.
I know. And you know what? People hate him as Lex Luthor. They hate him. And when I watch Batman v Superman, I have nothing but praise. I really like him as Lex Luthor. I think I buy him as Lex Luthor because in Batman v Superman, we hear in dialogue that he's inherited LexCorp from his father who's died. So you can almost imagine that, like, comic book accurate Lex Luthor was his father. And this is like son. And because I've always said, like, megalomaniac rich villains aren't really that plausible in modern films. Like, back in the old James Bond films, these rich megalomaniacs with more money than God who want to blow shit up or steal all the gold or whatever, you know, who cares what their motivation is? They're just rich and bad. You know, that trope doesn't really work now. We want more complicated villains.
I disagree with you. In the age of Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, I think it's become a reality. Reality
imitating art, sure. But at this point, because this is still like they were filming this in 2016, so we're going back like 6 years ago. You know, I think Trump had come into power 2015 or 2016. I can't quite remember. You got 16. Your Elons and Bezos, but like, you know, I feel that cinema still can't, like, cinema has always been wanting more complicated villains. They don't want just a random rich guy. We've had it a million times, and it's a dead trope. It doesn't work in movies anymore.
Okay, that I agree with.
Absolutely. But with Jesse Eisenberg in Batman v Superman, he's playing it like a petulant child who's inherited more money than he knows what to do with, and he has this little bit of a god complex. And for me, I actually do buy that. This spoiled little rich kid who knows, maybe he killed his father and to inherit the company, to inherit the fortune. Who knows? We never find out. But like, I really bought him as this, you know, spoiled little rich kid that just decides he has a beef with Superman. You know, there's someone above him, and, you know, he doesn't like it. He's got this god complex. For me, it really does. I do buy it. I do buy him as like a more plausible and more fun Lex Luthor. You know, I like him as Lex Luthor, but most people, like, he is universally hated as Lex Luthor. I'm glad that you liked him, because I really like him as Lex.
I like him. I really do. Jesse Eisenberg is. I've enjoyed him when I see him in films. I quite liked him as what's his name in this Facebook movie?
Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, he was the right guy to put as Mark Zuckerberg. And I felt it fit. I mean, he does look a bit younger. I mean, compared to Henry Cavill. As Superman, there is a bit like I always think back to Small Town, whatever it was, that show where Superman's a teenager.
Smallville.
Smallville, is that what it was called?
Yeah.
And so that because of that, I always think Superman and Lex Luthor, they're about the same age, but in this, it feels like probably Lex Luthor is maybe about 10 or so years younger than him. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's just my opinion.
Funnily enough, I always sort of felt that Lex Luthor in the comic books and cartoons was meant to be older as well.
Yes, if I look at the cartoons, they actually both of them look quite older, a lot older. But yeah, especially Lex Luthor. By the way, a thought just pops right into my head.
Go on, hit me with it.
Thinking about Superman and the boys and Homelander.
And
I was thinking that Homelander is basically Superman and Lex Luthor kind of combined, but like a kind of Jesse Eisenberg pricky
Yeah, I
Lex Luthor.
suppose so.
Do you get what I'm trying to say there?
I
Like,
yeah, I
the
do. I mean, look, I like the idea of a Superman gone bad, or
I love
um, a
it.
s-
I actually
yeah,
really like it because he's too
yeah,
good. He's too powerful to be a good guy. And when I saw him,
exactly.
he came back bad when the Flash did his thingamajiggy inside uh, Superman's spaceship majiggy, and
Yeah,
he came back. I was like, oh, this is I like this. And then later in the kind of like epilogue thingamajiggy, too many jiggies in what I'm saying now.
the
Uh,
climax. Let's say the
yeah,
climax.
I thought that was really good. That's why I kind of thought that could be quite a good sequel film. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like if it's another alternate reality where they have to
agreed.
fix everything and Superman is now the bad guy and they're just like fucking running for their lives basically because he's
Dude,
gonna kill them.
dude, that was the initial plan. Honestly, I'm gonna say after we finish, or maybe you should watch it now for the pod. But there is a scene in Batman versus Superman, and it's like you do this flash forward into that apocalyptic future, and you see Batman like trudging through the desert, and then he meets this guy, I think, and then it's like a deal for weapons, and he's buying weapons, but then it's a double cross, and then all of these guys show up with guns to attack Batman, and Batman has this incredible action scene where he fights them off. But everyone in like all these bad guys that are attacking him, they've all got Superman emblems on their arm, and it's sort of like reminiscent of the swastika.
Mm.
Like it's that bad. It's Superman goes Hitler level bad for this flash forward, and I'd love this movie. I really want to see a movie where Superman goes bad. We get a little taste of it in the Justice League. We get this sort of flash forward again where we see what would happen if Darkseid takes over, and we see that he is sort of standing over Superman while Superman is crying over Lois Lane dying. You remember this scene? And it's sort of
Yeah.
like seeing how he will end up manipulating Superman to be a baddie if they can't deal with him now. So yeah, we get little snippets of it, but I just love a full-on movie where he's the bad guy. I
I
really
would
would.
I would actually enjoy that as well. I think that'd be
Yeah.
very fun.
There's
Uh
I know you're not big into the superhero stuff, but I'd highly recommend, and any
well,
listeners out there who haven't seen it, I highly recommend a cartoon movie called Superman Red Sun, where it's like an alternate reality where Superman crash lands in Soviet Russia instead of America. And it's really quite good to it's interesting to see how the story could have unfolded if he had some different politics growing up. It's interesting, very very interesting. I highly recommend it. Going back to the cast,
mhm.
have you got any more thoughts? Like, because I know you talked about Cyborg, but did you like the guy? I felt that the CGI was so janky; it's sort of difficult
It,
to
it
like
was a
him. But
bit. They could have simplified it a bit. I don't know. Like there was so many
he,
parts of his
he
body where there were just kind of gaps.
yeah,
Like I don't.
it's
And it was too
strange.
shiny. They could have made it a bit less shiny. Yeah, I agree with you on
But
that.
I think the actor's all right. Like I just didn't
I,
really see the performance through all the CG. Like, because his
yeah,
face always looks a bit CG as well. So yeah, it was a bit weird. Like it was hard to sort of gauge his performance. I'd like to see him in his own movie uh, with better
that
CG or less distracting CG. Anyway,
yeah. And by the way, one thing I was meant like we're talking about Superman, Spider-Man, Jesus Christ, Batman had
the
been a bit
Flash.
older.
Oh
No, no,
yes,
I
yeah,
was going to say how it seems like there's generations of superheroes. So we have the older generation, and then we have this new generation, which is basically the Flash and Cyborg coming in. And I
oh
like there's a kind of
yeah.
an age difference, kind of cut like these guys are already established. Aquaman, Wonder Woman,
I mean,
Batman, Superman, they're already there, and then you have this new
yeah.
generation who are being brought in. I kind of like that
Oh,
actually.
dude, I feel like modern superhero films have been doing that from the very beginning. Like, even if you go back to let's go X-Men, so like that's 2000, right? 22 years ago,
So the first X-Men movie, when we are introduced to them, we use Wolverine and Rogue to be like the sort of conduit of the audience, like learning about all the characters. But the characters like Cyclops, Storm, Jean Grey, Professor X, they're already the X-Men, and then you've got the younger guys who'll get promotions throughout the sequels. And and then you look at the Avengers, like they started with Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, like the heavy hitters that were around from the dawn of Marvel Comics or from the early. So it sort of feels like we've got like Golden Age, Silver Age representation, like from the comic books. It's like the movies like to adapt Silver Age comic books, but also referencing the Golden Age comic books. Like it's weird how the movies are sort of stuck in this era of the comic books that there are modern eras of the comic book that they're not emulating. There are older eras of the comic book that they're not emulating. They're just caught in this sort of, I want to say the 70s, but like a lot of these Marvel movies and DC movies, the 70s of comic books is what they're adapting, and 80s. And I just find it interesting because even you noticed this sort of generational thing. And it's like, I always thought it was a reference for comic book nerds, but it's there, it's present. Even people that don't know the comic books can see it. So I find that interesting. So let's talk about some more of the acting, more of the actors in the movie. Amber Heard is in this movie. It's also worth pointing out that since the trial, it doesn't look like she's coming back for any more. So unlucky for her.
I also read somewhere that, and apparently the Aquaman movies, she did a different accent than this film. Like she did a kind of Britishy sounding transatlantic accent, and the previous one she didn't. But I don't know if that's true.
Don't really remember. If she does it, it's not hugely noticeable, for me at least. But I will say I did hear that the chemistry between her and Jason Momoa in the Aquaman film, they actually had, it was a really tough job for the editors to try and create chemistry for them. Apparently, they had no chemistry at all, but the editing team managed to pull something out of there. But I'm not sure how true that is. Again, it feels like a lot of people hating on Amber Heard are jumping on a bandwagon, or they're pro Johnnies, so they're hating on Amber Heard. I personally don't think that you should hate Amber Heard. I think, I think this whole thing's better left alone. To be honest, I think they should drop this shit. They should never have fucking went to court. Anyway,
I got another character for you.
Yeah, go on, hit me with your best shot.
J.K. Simmons as Gordon.
Isn't he?
He's great as Gordon, isn't he?
Yeah, I was surprised to see him. He
really works.
I'm so used to seeing him in the comedy things, though. I was kind of surprised to see him there. And I was also thinking, I wonder if he ever would have gotten this role if it wasn't for him in Spider-Man movies.
I'm just going to say he's in Spider-Man, so he's done superhero shit before.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've watched Invincible, which is like a cartoon TV show, which again, it's like superheroes turned on its head. And he plays Omni-Man, who is also like a Superman allegory that's a bad guy. But everyone thinks he's a good guy. It's pretty good. It's worth watching.
Oh, I just Googled it. I've seen memes from this. I've never watched it.
It's actually really good. I quite like it. And the comic book is a classic. I've never read the comic, but it's meant to be great. But yeah, I agree. J.K. Simmons, I love him in everything. He can do no wrong. I love him in Whiplash as well. Like, he's amazing in that. He's perfect in Spider-Man. He's perfect in Whiplash. I don't know if you saw that new Chris Pratt alien invasion film. I can't even remember what it's called, but it's not very good. But J.K. Simmons is in it, and he's in like 2 scenes, and the 2 scenes he's in, he's the best thing in the movie. By a landslide. He's amazing. I love J.K. Simmons. I do want to talk about like we're talking the characters in the film.
Mm-hmm.
We've mentioned, we haven't really talked about Gal Gadot, and we haven't really talked about Ezra Miller, and we haven't really talked about Darkseid, who is a villain I would really love to see in a movie. And I think that the Justice League actually does make me excited for Darkseid to show up. I would like to see him, but I do feel that this film feels like it was finished during COVID on computers. It does feel like like all the Darkseid stuff. There's no real weight to any of the characters. It's like watching a very high budget cartoon. It doesn't feel like real people, but I do like Darkseid.
Can I mention another character quickly
Go
before
on.
that? So it will take me 2 seconds, and it's also something naff that I noticed. So there's this whole Martian guy who's in like 2 scenes of the whole film.
Yeah, I know.
I read up a little bit about him, and so
Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, that's the guy. And he helps. He does something to Lois Lane or whatever, convinces her to do something, and then at the end of the film, he flies to Bruce Wayne's home, and he's slowly hovering down. Bruce Wayne, very relaxed, gets out of bed, goes towards, I don't know if he's in bed, but he came out to his balcony, and he's like, "Can I help you?" And I'm just thinking, fuck, would he react like that after he's fucking killed all these guys and the alien? If I was Bruce Wayne and some alien guy floated down to my balcony, I would probably want to, like, I'll be like, who the fuck is that? I'm gonna fucking kill this guy. Who the fuck is he?
all of the Wayne Mansion defense systems would be activated, and like everyone, he'd like be like, "Alfred, get your bat suit on," and like everyone would be fucking ready for him. Exactly, you're right. You wouldn't be casual when he shows
Can
up.
I help you? No, fuck off.
Yeah,
fuck off. Would he be like that?
So here's a bit more trivia for you. That scene was filmed in Zack Snyder's garden, apparently. And it was originally Green Lantern. Green Lantern was meant to show up at the end and talk to him about the future. However, Warner Brothers are currently working on Green Lantern stuff, so they didn't want to confuse the audience. So they were like, actually, can you not put Green Lantern in? So that was what Snyder wanted to do. So he instead did Martian Manhunter. But again, I feel like the first scene with Martian Manhunter was crap. When he speaks to Lois's mum, and it's like, or is it Superman's mum? Whoever he talks to. Oh, yeah, it's Lois speaking to Martha Kent. But Martha Kent was actually Martian Manhunter or something like that.
Really pointless scene. Really,
it was crap. It was literally just there to, name drop Martian Manhunter. And I just want to say to you, this is the first we've ever seen him in any of these movies. He has not popped up before this. So it's not even well handled that this is the introduction of a character who is a legitimate member of the Justice League in the comics. And he's a really compelling character, if I'm honest. Not handled well at all in this. This is just such a fucking clusterfuck of a movie. But it's really interesting, though, like the trials and tribulations of how this film got made, like the campaign online, like release the Snyder Cut. And it's kind of crazy that it actually happened. I think it's kind of amazing that it's happened.
I think it needs a third cut.
Yeah, me too. Although you can keep the Joss Whedon stuff. I don't want that shit. Like, I still think that this is a better film. I still think that Snyder knows these characters better than Joss Whedon. However, this was unnecessarily long. It doesn't need to be 4 hours. This is a 2-hour film that's been stretched. And it's also weird how, because we said it feels like a couple of films been squished together not very well. And it's like, you had 4 hours. Surely, if you're going to squish 2 films together, you're going to need 4 hours. And you should be able to balance it. And it's still not very balanced. But I do I don't hate this movie, but I don't love it at all. I don't think I like it either.
I'll tell you this.
I just like the character. I like Batman. I like Superman. I love the scene where Superman comes back to life and he's bad. I love that.
Yeah, I like that too.
But
I'll say, as a guy who doesn't really watch these kinds of films, who doesn't really care much, who only watched it because you made me watch it, you bastard. I actually
well, you
really
watched the
enjoyed it.
wrong film.
I know I did watch the wrong film.
Yeah, really?
But yeah, I did enjoy it because I don't know, I like indulging sometimes in things that I have no idea about. Let me see what this is all about. Like, go on, explain all your shit to me and let it just overflow, and I'll try to put it together and I'll make my own opinion about it. So in that sense, I quite liked it.
I'll tell you my favorite bit of the film is when Superman comes back to life. But you know, when like he's got the whole Justice League defeated and then Lois Lane shows up and he just looks at her and then flies away with her, right? So, and like Superman's been dead or in a coma for X amount of time. So Superman's blue balls saved the Justice League from certain death. That's what happened. I also have
some notes on this, by the way, as well. So at the beginning of the film, Superman dies. How exactly? He's like something in his chest, right? Something.
Yeah, he's impaled with like a bone.
He's got nothing on him when he's brought back to life. Why? Like, I know that he's invincible.
Because he's Kryptonian. He's Kryptonian.
But do they heal, or are they just invincible? What is it? Well, is it both?
Well, we know
one or the other.
Well, this is the thing. We know that Superman can also has super speed, which also is another thing that makes him too perfect.
I was also thinking about that as well, because he could have just done half the stuff the Flash did. He's just a
exactly.
Basic...
I mean, well, this is it. In the Joss Whedon cut, the last shot of the film is Superman and the Flash trying to have a race. That's the last shot of the film. It's much more marvelly, the Joss Whedon cut. They try and make it more jokey, more lighthearted, more family friendly. And as I say, the last shot is Superman and Flash. The Flash is like, I really got to know. And then they have a race. I hate it. But like, if we're to go off the basis that Superman has the same powers as the Flash, then we can also assume that Superman can heal quickly because the Flash can heal quickly. He has super fast healing as well. Another person I want to talk about in this film that is kind of easy to forget about because she's so fucking boring. I love Amy Adams, and I think that she is faultless in this movie. So it's not her fault that she's boring as fuck. That's what a note I've written down. Is that Lois Lane is so fucking boring. She is a great little actress. I'm a big fan of her. However, God, Lois Lane is boring in this movie. Every time she's got screen time, it's boring. And like, even in Batman v Superman, like very often she just gets in the way. And it's like, oh, look, we get it. You're proactive, but like, you're actually preventing the action now. Just like, you know, just hold back. Like in Batman v Superman, she does this whole thing with a fucking Kryptonian spear, and if she just hadn't done anything, they would have been able to defeat the bad guy so much sooner, you know. So yes, I just find that she's never written well, and it's like I say, it's nothing to do with Amy Adams. She's brilliant. I'm a massive fan of hers, but my God, Lois Lane is not written well over these three films because she's in all three of them. She's in Batman, she's in Superman, she's in Man of Steel, and she's in Batman v Superman, and she's in this. So her and Henry Cavill are the only two that have appeared in every single film in the trilogy. Interestingly, so it's more of a Superman trilogy than anything. But Batman versus Superman is definitely a Batman. Yeah, he's what ties the films together, but I have to say Batman v Superman is definitely a Batman movie. Superman, I think, has like 10 lines of dialogue, and that's it. He barely speaks.
Yeah, I would agree with you on Amy Adams in this film. I also quite like her, but yeah, I do feel that she could have been utilized better. I don't know.
Absolutely. She's a cracking actress. Like, there's no excuse. She's a great performer. So why is she so boring? It's down to the writing and the directing. Although I will say, though, when talking about the directing, there are some beautiful shots in this movie. Like, Snyder knows how to make a really beautiful shot, but that doesn't make a great movie. But he does make there. I have a note here somewhere. Hang on, I'll find it. I found it quite funny. Where is it? Something like, I can't find it, but it's something like, oh yeah, this film has so much beauty, but it's often interweaved with entire shite.
I like that a lot. That's a great quote. You should get that.
I think we should have that on a T-shirt, like
yeah.
film shrapnel on the back, and on the front, this film has so much beauty, often interweaved with shite.
You know, there was
I think I was talking about CGI though when I wrote that note.
Probably.
But I think it's better without the CGI. The action is good in this though.
Yeah, it is quite good. It's enjoyable.
It's fun anyway. Yeah.
Interesting that you mentioned this about the shots, because I see that on Wikipedia, at least, it says that Zack Snyder has worked as a director of photography for quite a few films as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's interesting that he does see a good shot, but you know, doesn't always have the right execution to make it again.
It's what I said earlier. There's a lot of style over substance in this one, where like the shot takes precedent over the story sometimes. You know, like a cool thing to happen sometimes takes precedent. Let's talk about Gal Gadot and when is she going to fuck Ben Affleck?
It does seem like a natural progression of things, doesn't it? There was a lot.
Right?
I noticed that there's a lot of sexual tension between them too.
But it's very unintentional as well. Like they're basically, oh, did I touch your hand? Oh, sorry. Ooh. Like it's very cheesy, like early relationship stuff. Or maybe they're already banging, but something's going on. You can cut the sexual tension between them with a fucking spoon.
Just let them fuck and get over it.
Just let them fuck already. Just let them fuck. There was sometimes I thought the parademons, the fucking mosquito things. They're like, sometimes the CGI looked good. Sometimes it was goofy as fuck. Like really goofy. I don't know. But yeah, let's talk about Gal Gadot. I like her, but I don't think she's a great actress. I just like her. Like I like the cut of her jib. Anytime I see her in an interview, I'm like, oh, I like this girl. She's cool. But like, I'm not a huge fan of her as an actress. I think she's, I feel like she just got the job because she's incredibly beautiful, which she is. But like, something. It's not, it's not even difficult to buy her as a badass. It's just whenever she has to show character, it's really not working. And I feel bad for her because, she's probably trying her best, but I really don't rate her as an actress. Well, certainly not as Wonder Woman, at least. I don't know if I've seen her in anything else, but
I don't think I've seen her in anything except this film. I know that
she's in a Fast and Furious movie.
I can see that on Wikipedia right now in front of me.
I knew she was in a Fast movie, but I've not watched the Fast and Furious movies either.
I do feel that she does carry Wonder Woman quite naturally. She looks like she's Wonder Woman. She feels like she's Wonder Woman. She has the action feel to her too. Yeah,
absolutely.
She's pretty hot as well.
It's just her performance for me. Like just when she's actually having to act and talk to people, it just feels a bit robotic for me, maybe not robotic, but like I don't really buy her character. I buy her as a badass, absolutely, but I don't rate her character much. Like after like 4 Wonder Woman movies, like who is she? What's she about? I don't really get as much sense of her character, except she's sad about stuff. She's always sad about stuff, and that's it. Oh, my boyfriend died 80 years ago. All right, well, it has been 80 years, darling. Like, I know it never gets easier, but surely by now.
Especially if you're thousands of years old, I'm sure 80 years will not feel. I think
Is
she's
she meant
supposed
to
to be
that old?
I think there's one bit where the Flash and Cyborg, I think maybe they're digging up Superman's body, and I think the Flash, who I think in this movie they've decided he's the comedic relief.
He's the Spider-Man of the DC world, yeah.
Yeah, and he says something to Cyborg about how he thinks she might like him, and Cyborg says she's like 5,000 years old or something. I think I remember something like that happening. At least 5,000.
In the Joss Whedon version, he accidentally sits on her lasso of truth and starts talking about how much he wants to bang her.
That's not so bad. You could maybe have kept that.
You need to watch the Justice League. You need to watch the Justice League.
I should watch before I speak.
The lasso of truth is a good it's a good way to have exposition in a film. However, I've got this as a note in like that opening scene. She takes the lasso, whips it round him, and like gets the information, so we find out who they are, right? But just before the lasso of truth compels him to tell the truth, she says, "The lasso of truth compels you to tell the truth." And I'm like, you've already got something that forces exposition from a character. You don't need to give me exposition on this thing. Like, you don't need to tell me. The thing is telling me already. You don't.
The exposition device forces you to give exposition.
The exposition device needs exposition. Fuck! Come on, guys. Yeah. I'd like to see Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot bang in their costumes for the next film. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. It'll be like that scene. It'll be like that scene in The Watchmen where Owlman bangs the other one.
Yeah, that's also quite a long scene.
It's too long, actually.
Can we also go back to Ezra Miller for a second?
Oh yeah, so Ezra Miller, I think, is the last guy we need to discuss.
Yeah.
What a fucking mental guy! Because this poor lad is having a mental breakdown.
I don't know, I don't know all the details, but I've read some really crazy. I didn't even know who he really was, or they are really, if they want to be called that way.
Is he they?
I think they are a they now. Yeah.
I didn't know.
I think that's how they prefer to be spoken about.
Okay.
So they are nuts, because I was reading like several things that they've done. I think there's something in Hawaii, some other stuff where
I heard
really
some stuff in Hawaii,
aggressive towards people. Some crazy stuff about them keeping no problem about marijuana. I love marijuana, but like growing more than legal limit and having guns and keeping guns and marijuana in the same house as kids who they've sheltered. I don't know. It sounds a bit culty to me. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Didn't he steal a child?
No, I don't think they stole a child. I think that there was this woman who had a kid, and they let them stay at their house. But then there's this things coming out that at the house there was guns and all kinds of stuff that they were freely open to grab. And the father of the child was very worried about how safe the house was and stuff. So I don't know. There's a lot of crazy crap going on with Ezra Miller.
Well, I mean, I think this guy's got to go.
Unfortunately,
I don't think Warner Brothers can risk the money making machine that is DC. They're not going to risk all that by keeping Ezra Miller, surely. But what they've shot in The Flash so far, like the new Flash film, Ezra Miller is playing 3 different versions of The Flash. So it's going to be really difficult to cut around that. Do you know what I mean? You know, you're basically going to have to start the movie from scratch. It might actually be more cost effective to release the film with Ezra Miller and have maybe an end credit scene to replace him. I don't know, but I don't know what they're going to do. But I think this guy's going to go.
They have to pay for a lot of therapy, maybe, if they keep Ezra Miller.
Oh, maybe.
But what did you think about him as the Flash? Because so when they first brought him in, and there's that whole thing with the slow motion. The first thing I thought was like, okay, they're doing an X-Man. They're doing Quicksilver, because like in the two of the last X-Men movies, where's Quicksilver? There's always a scene where he has to
bullet time.
Yeah, going super fast. There's some music happening. He's fixing everything. It's a bit funny. And then they did a similar thing with the Flash. I'm not too surprised, but I thought, and here we go. Another chance for them to look like they're stealing stuff from Marvel.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I agree to an extent. But, I think it's difficult not to make scenes like that. When you're dealing with someone with super speed, it would be a really good scene. It would be visually interesting to experiment with bullet time. So I can see why filmmakers do it, but you're right. It's becoming a trope of these super fast superheroes. What do you think of him in the actual role? Because he's clearly meant to be autistic or have Asperger's of some kind. Like he doesn't understand people. Yeah. He doesn't get like social constructs. Like he's like, I don't understand people. So like they're going for this, like they're going for like a little bit on the spectrum, which I don't hate, but sometimes I feel like it's a little bit much, a little bit offensive sometimes.
You know what I put it down to? I put it down to his whole thing that he's fast. His brain is moving quicker than other people's. So
true.
He's tripping over himself in his head, and he's speaking out loud, and he's going to say weird shit because he's not thinking about it. He's just going blah, 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 blah. It's just this whole thing is that he's fast, and that causes him to say these odd things.
Maybe.
So
I think in a nutshell, I'm not a fan. I don't really like that.
So I was open to Ezra Miller at the beginning, and then there was a couple of times where the Flash was saying silly stuff, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start hating him if he doesn't stop. Like, I think there was one bit where they were at an airplane, and there was also Wonder Woman, and there was Bruce Wayne. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was like, this is grating on me. This is slightly annoying me. But it was. I don't know. I didn't have too much problem with Ezra Miller as the Flash, but there were points where I think if they put too much of him, I will get pissed off because it was just getting like, I know that they needed someone to be the comical character because all of them are very serious. They need someone to lighten the mood a little bit. But if it's too goofy, it's just like, for fuck's sake, come on.
You should watch You should watch the Joss Whedon version because everyone is goofy in that. They reshot everything. They make Batman goofy in it. Everyone gets a joke. Everyone is goofy. Everyone gets their Ezra Miller moment in the Justice League. So League. Yeah. Oh, that's what people call it. People do call it Justice League. Yeah.
I haven't heard that.
But as I say, I don't love him in this movie, but I'll take it over everyone being like that because everyone's like that in the other one. So, and I don't hate him. I think he's charming, really charming, actually. But I feel like after all this Hawaii shit, it's difficult to like him. I don't know. I don't really get him at all after this Hawaii shit. What do you think about Superman in a black suit? It's fucking perfect. For me.
It does look cooler.
So fucking cool.
Where did he get the black suit from? From the spaceship?
Oh, from the spaceship, yeah.
For the final scene, he's doing some serious shit, so he needs a black suit.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what happened to his red and blue suit, but yeah, he gets the black suit from the ship.
Yeah.
It looks fucking cool though.
It
really
does. I
looks
mean,
cool.
my main problem with Superman is that he's so old. He's been around
Yeah.
for so long, and like we're dragging so many things around with us for him.
Well,
So many powers given to him over the years. The whole design of him feels dated. His whole story
look, I
feels dated.
mean, he is literally so old that if anyone listening wants to do Superman their way, you will only have to wait 10, 15 years before Superman becomes public domain, because he's been around that long. He will be public domain where anyone can make a movie about him. Anyone can make a TV show, whatever. You can do anything you want with Superman, and you will not get into trouble for copyright in about 15 years' time. And the same can be said for Batman, actually. So Warner Brothers really need to fix this universe fast before someone else does it. Yeah, let's do our own Superman. Maybe we'll do a Tobias and Craig, or should I say, film shrapnel quickie at some point where we just rewrite. We do our own Superman. Maybe we should do that as like a little thing at some point and write our own Superman for a pod because it's coming. Maybe we'll need it. I do think Superman would have looked great in a mullet though, because in the comic books when no. I know you laugh, but in the comic books, when he dies, he comes back with a mullet. Like it was in the 90s, and like mullet Superman was a thing in the comics. I would have loved it if he had a mullet when he came back to life. It would have been fucking amazing.
And Nick Cage with a mullet as Superman.
Oh, again, we should do a podcast about the Nick Cage Superman film. I would love to talk about that. I really want to see that. They still need to make that. Also, one really annoying thing. So, in the big fight climax, right, the Flash is running around really fast to build a charge, right? And you've got Black Suit Spider. Really. Well, he does, but before he saves the day, he fucks up in a big way, where everyone's fighting. Black Suit Superman's fighting shit, and then the Flash is outside building a charge while Cyborg is trying to get into the mother boxes. And then there's a parademon trying to shoot the Flash. And my question to you, how the fuck does someone with super speed get shot?
Yeah, that was a bit stupid, wasn't it? It just...
Right?
I
it's
don't think
really world-breaking.
These little, like, demon things who have been killed left, right, and center, who obviously not really in much of a match to all the other heroes. One of them somehow manages to shoot him, going at the speed of light, so fucking fast. There's thunder, like a circle of thunder going around the fucking thing. I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you. That was a bit stupid. Yeah.
Daft. And it's just so ridiculous that anyone with super speed could get shot, especially if while you're doing super speed, you can think like... We've seen the Flash be able to comprehend reality around him at a super fast rate. So the moment you see the bullet coming, you just walk around it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Take a step.
It's world-breaking.
Right.
Now, continuing with the Flash, when they lose and then the Flash goes into super bullet time and turns time backwards, can you... Like, not a terrible scene. I enjoyed that scene. However... How did that scene win an Oscar? Did you know that it won an Oscar? That scene on its own won an Oscar for, I think the category was something like fan-pleasing moments or audience cheer or some shit. And the thing is, everything else in the nominations are way better than this scene, which is mental. It's mental.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Fan cheer. Whatever the hell.
No, it's a brand new category that they introduced this year, and I reckon they'll phase it out by next year because it was shit. It was pants. The two new categories they introduced were like Twitter polls. So all those Zack Snyder fanboys came out and voted for a Snyder film. So Zack Snyder won all of them. And it's like, yeah, I like Snyder and I think he does a good job, but he did not deserve it for these scenes. And like Army of the Dead one, that Netflix zombie film he made. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not good.
I mean, it's fun, but it's not good. And there's definitely a robot zombie in there. There's definitely a robot zombie in there, and they don't fucking explain it. Like, if you're gonna give me robot zombie, you got to explain robot zombie. Like, I'm interested. You piqued my interest. You're giving me a robot zombie. Why is there a robot zombie? Tell me. Don't leave it unspoken about. So yeah, I do like Snyder, to be fair. I think he's a good filmmaker. I just think sometimes he focuses on style more than substance, which is fine. I think a lot of directors do it too. It's easy to do it if you have a sense of flair. Yeah, I'm sort of ran out of steam on this, dude. Fuck this movie. I'm never watching it again.
Yeah, I think it's a one-time deal, isn't it? You watch it.
It's too long.
I'm so sorry I made you watch it a second time.
Yeah, it's too long. It's way too long. Batman v Superman, man, it's half this length and twice as good. Yeah. Honestly, Batman v Superman's so much better, but people really do hate it. People much prefer this film to Batman v Superman. Me personally, I think Batman versus Superman is leagues above this film, if you pardon the pun. It's Justice Leagues above this film.
Ha 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 ha.
Ha 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 ha. So look, what are your final thoughts on Justice League without any context?
I found it fun. At points, yeah, it's a bit boring. Maybe it's not the most exciting film. It doesn't always keep the momentum going. But I don't know. I kind of liked indulging in it a bit because I hadn't seen any of the other films. I don't think I've seen a Superman film for a really long time. I don't think I've seen. I think the last one I watched was probably one of the ones from the 80s. You know, the old school ones back in the day. I think the last one I saw was the one with Richard Pryor in it, which I think is like Superman 3.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's a really old, like a long time ago. So I don't really watch them. I watched a few Marvel movies here and there. I like the superhero stuff that flips on his head. But this film, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of silliness. There's a lot of stupidity. There's a lot of questionable things. It's a huge budget film. I don't know what to say really, because for film guys, what would you say to film guys? It's difficult to say to them because I do like some nerdy stuff. I like the Venture Brothers. I like the Boys. I like the Watchmen. I like this stuff. But when it comes to the mainstream superheroes, I guess watch it. Don't expect to have your mind blown. Don't expect something to flip you. But it's kind of just watch it and like maybe you'll enjoy it. Maybe you'll be okay. But I don't expect your socks to be blown off or anything crazy. Yeah. It's kind of how you probably imagine it will happen. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. You know, I feel like the man gets a lot of shit from people and he just likes making movies. He obviously enjoys making movies and people just constantly shit on his movies. And I feel like, for me, I think we can say more about Zack Snyder with these films than the actual movies because, you know, he's very divisive. You know, people love him, people hate him. I think when he's perfect, he's perfect. Like Watchmen and 300, I think are great. And he's really, you know, it really works. And even the remake of Dawn of the Dead is great. And he directed that. And I think it was his first movie. And it's really a very, very good remake. So I feel like when it comes to Snyder, yeah, you know, you might not like him, but slow motion works when it works and it doesn't work when it doesn't work. And Snyder loves his slow-mo and he loves his little... I think he's technically a very good filmmaker, but he doesn't necessarily make the right script choices, but he's technically a very good filmmaker. I think all of his shots are brilliant. I think 300, Watchmen, and these DC movies, I think the cinematography is excellent for the most part.
You can't argue with him on that. When it comes to actually shooting and getting it done, he makes everything look fine. You will not have a problem with that. You're not going to say anything about the way anything looks in his films. But maybe you might say, why did that character do that or say that? Or what the fuck is that dialogue about? Or like, you will have the choices that he decides to include in his films. That's where, like, maybe you might have an issue. But yeah, technically speaking, technically, he's great. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I like a lot of his films. You know, I think I like more stuff from him than I dislike, if I'm honest. You know, I don't know if you've even seen that animated owl movie he made, Rise of the Guardians, I think it's called. But even that's bloody great. You know, I really liked that one. You know, it is for kids, but I enjoyed it.
I didn't know he made this. I know this film. Oh, that's
yeah,
very
it's
strange.
good. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of Sucker Punch. I didn't love that, but I like him when he does something. I like him for the most part. You know, what can I say? But yeah, sometimes he's not too concerned with story. He just wants to make the coolest shot possible. And you know what? We're missing filmmakers like that sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, not everyone can be Chris Nolan, where you have everything covered. You know, the cinematography's covered, the story's covered, everything's cool. I'm Chris Nolan. Let's make a movie. You know, not everyone can do that. You know, some people are better suited at being more focused. And Snyder is focused on the cinematography. I love it. I think he makes beautiful films. I really, really do. So that's my final thoughts. I hated this movie, though, the second time round. Too fucking long. Way too fucking long. And this is the longest podcast we've done. We've been recording for 2.5 hours. That's definitely the longest we've recorded. So, you know, it's been 6.5 hours of our life, this movie, Craig.
Yeah, and now I need to pee again. It's really bad.
It's been 10.5 hours out of my life. 10.5 hours out of my life.
We're almost as long as this fucking film.
Yeah.
Not even halfway, really, but yeah.
But I really do want you to watch Batman v Superman. I'd love to hear your opinion on it after hearing your opinion on this film. Because Batman v Superman is way better. Cut above. And everyone hates it. So I'd love to know your opinion.
Well, this is
anyway.
Come up.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we're at the end.
Nice.
All right. My name is Tobias, and this motherfucker is Craig. We are Film Shrapnel. Craig, do you want to say anything to the lovely listeners?
Just knees. Take care of your knees.
I think you said that last one as well. I was like, that's such a weird thing to say, and I never even called you out on it.
I misunderstood something you said before. Maybe I wasn't paying attention, and you said something, and I thought you said film knees, and I was like, knees, yeah, knees. I can't remember what it was.
I think I said keep it movies. I tried to do a sign off,
and I thought you said keep it knees, keep it knees, guys. Look after the knees.
I mean, to be fair, that's just as much of it. That makes just as much sense as keep it movies anyway. So, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, keep it knees. Maybe that is our sign off from now on.
Maybe
keep it knees.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for coming out with me, Craig, and thank you, listeners, for coming out with us.
No worries.
And next time, Craig, we're watching RRR.
Rawr.
Triple R.
Film Shrapnel.